Hello, my name is Moritz Allmaras. I work as a research scientist for Siemens Technology in Germany, and we have been investigating new ways of packaging executable simulations, and I would like to present to you some of our findings regarding the WebAssembly format. What is the motivation behind this? So we believe that simulation and digital twins will play an increasingly important role for supporting the operation phase of systems in the future. And we see applications there such as virtual sensing, model-based control, optimization of plant operation, or simulation of what-if scenarios. Nowadays, many of the solutions that are used there are custom-made for a specific application or project, so that you can't easily reuse the created simulation models in a different solution or project. So something that we need to scale this up is to separate the build part from the operation part of the life cycle of such simulations, so that the build phase produces a self-contained package that has a well-specified interface, and that package can then be deployed in various applications or environments and just be executed there by only knowing about this interface to the module. So what are some of the requirements that we face in this scenario? So the simulation engineer that produces this simulation module, he wants to use his preferred tools and not having to use a tool that one of his customers is using for operation of his plant. He wants his intellectual property that is included in the digital twin to be protected and not easily be inspected. He wants to avoid producing customized builds that are tailor-made for a specific customer or application. On the other hand, the operator of such systems, he wants to operate the simulation module on his infrastructure and not be restricted by the format of the simulation module. He needs high reliability and stability because he is going to use that module during operation of his system. And also, since he's getting the simulation module from a third party in this case, he does not trust the module. So he wants the module not to be able to impact the stability of his overall IT or OT system. What are some of the options that we have today when we package executable simulations? The first option that comes to mind is native machine code that often can have high performance if you have a good compiler. It has some level of IP protection, at least because it's compiled code. It could be decompiled, but it's not very simple. It doesn't require a compiler or a complex runtime. Usually the runtime that is needed already comes with the platform where the native code is executed. On the other hand, native machine code is very platform specific. It's compiled for a specific architecture and only runs there. It is difficult to sandbox because you have to rely on the sandboxing mechanisms of the operating system where you execute this module. A second option that you have when packaging simulation modules is you can ship source code that could be compiled for various target platforms. If you have a compiler, it has some level of security for the operator. Since it's source code, it can be inspected. It can have high performance again if there is a decent compiler available for the target system. But on the other hand, it has little IP protection. All the source code is there. It can be inspected. It needs a compiler for the target platform, obviously. And there is also a compile step involved that you need to carry out before this module can actually be executed. Now, there is a third option that hasn't received much attention so far, and that is intermediate bytecode. If you think about ecosystems like the .NET environment or the Java virtual machine, there the high-level programming code is compiled into an intermediate bytecode that is then executed by a runtime. Now, when you compile something to intermediate bytecode, that could potentially at least be platform independent because you're not targeting a specific platform, but a runtime. You can sandbox this code often since the runtime gives you additional possibilities of sandboxing. It controls the interpretation or execution of the code. It is compiled code, so you have at least some level of IP protection. On the downsides, though, intermediate bytecode always needs a runtime or an application level virtual machine to be executed. It is often not very high performance, and very often it's also tied to a particular ecosystems. If you think about the two examples I mentioned, Java or the .NET environment, it certainly supports multiple languages, but it's not so simple to, let's say, compile C or C++ code to target the Java virtual machine or the common language runtime. So one of the new options that you have in this field of intermediate bytecode is WebAssembly. WebAssembly is tackling these two downsides of not being high performance. It tries to be close to native performance as possible, and it's not tied to a particular ecosystem or programming language. So it's totally independent of the programming language that is used for the high-level implementation. Now, what is this WebAssembly and why is it useful here? So WebAssembly is a standardized bytecode format for a stack-based virtual machine that has been created for executing high-performance code inside web browsers. It is a binary target for compilers, so you wouldn't normally write code in WebAssembly yourself, but high-level code is compiled by a compiler into WebAssembly. It is designed with performance, security, and simplicity in mind. The spec is actually pretty slim, and it's quite easy, let's say, to read and understand. It is very lightweight and also quite general purpose. It's not really tied to the rest of the web stack. And that makes it suitable also for applications outside the web, and that's what we're looking at here. WebAssembly has been developed mostly by the big browser vendors, Mozilla, Microsoft, Google, and Apple, and has been standardized by the W3C lately as a web standard. So WebAssembly, the way it works is that you start with an implementation in a high-level language like C, C++, or Rust, and that is then compiled by a compiler into this WebAssembly format, and that can be executed on various target platforms. The ecosystem around WebAssembly nowadays contains multiple runtimes that are available as open source. Also nowadays, all modern web browsers contain a WebAssembly runtime. The WebAssembly modules in principle can be interpreted just-in-time compiled or ahead-of-time compiled. And compiler toolchains exist already for various major programming languages. In particular, the LLVM compiler suite contains a target for WebAssembly, so that any programming language that has an LLVM front end can be compiled to WebAssembly today already. And if you think about this picture on the top right, then that's not that different from how LLVM sort of works. In LLVM toolchain, the high-level programming language is compiled into an intermediate format first, from which then the machine native code is generated. And if you think about this, taking this intermediate representation of LLVM and making it portable, then you end up with something that is quite similar to WebAssembly. So here's a very rough picture of the WebAssembly architecture. You have a runtime that can load this WebAssembly bytecode and instantiate it in so-called module instances. The modules, they can export functions that you can call from the outside, and they also import functions that you have to provide when the module is instantiated. They have access to a stack, obviously, and also a heap given by a linear chunk of memory that is completely controlled by the runtime. So when we talk about implementing simulations in WebAssembly, we have to think about the interface. So in this project, we developed a coupling between a simulation module and its environment that is conceptually very similar to FMI for co-simulation. It only allows causal signal connections between inputs and outputs having a defined direction. And it also contains a model description that is embedded into one single self-contained WebAssembly file in the end. We call this format the digital twin assembly, or Dtasm. Now, the ABI to these Dtasm modules, of course, needs to be able to talk in terms of simulation entities. And WebAssembly natively only supports 4 native data types, namely 2 integer types and 2 floating point types. If you need to exchange more complex data types with a WebAssembly module, what you can do is you can write or read them to the WebAssembly linear memory and then pass offsets to those locations in the memory as function arguments. The digital twin assembly interface, its definition is very similar again to the FMI for co-simulation standard, except that it's a little bit simplified. It uses for serialization and deserialization into these memory locations. It uses the flat buffers library by Google, which is a very efficient and lightweight binary serialization library. And the payload for flat buffers is modeled by so-called flat buffer schemas. Conceptually, this is very similar to protocol buffers. And we specified 5 different functions in the interface: an init function that is called to initialize a module instance, a set values function that is called to set input values, and the do-step function that calculates from one time step to the next, and a getValues function that retrieves the output values at the end of a time step. And there's also a getModelDescription function for retrieving the model description of the module. Here's a demo that we built to show that this approach is really portable and platform independent. So for a very simple toy simulation example, a double pendulum, we created a Simulink model and then compiled that Simulink model into C source code. We combined that source code with the implementation of our Dtasm interface and compiled everything using Clang, the C++ compiler from the LLVM toolchain, into a WebAssembly module that then has this Dtasm interface implemented. And we showed that this particular module can be executed in a variety of environments. It can run inside a web browser. It can just run on some regular PC laptop. It can run on single board computers such as the Raspberry Pi. It can even be executed on a relatively small microcontroller platform like the ESP32. Up here on the top right, you see a little demo that we built using this ESP32 and visualizing the double pendulum simulation. And all of these platforms can be targeted by a single WebAssembly module that doesn't need to be changed or adapted to run on any of these platforms. It's compatible with any of them. So here are some of the key properties of this approach. So obviously WebAssembly is very portable. You can run the same module on almost any platform as we saw. It's very lightweight due to the specification in using this flat buffers library. Simple modules can be as small as 20 kilobytes in size. It's quite secure, so any mistakes or malicious code inside the module cannot impact the hosting process. It is polyglot in the sense that you can use any language that can be compiled to WebAssembly to implement these modules. And we have tested this in particular with C, C++, and also Rust. Now, some of the drawbacks that we faced is that WebAssembly nowadays does not support all features that would be desirable for simulation modules, such as, for example, multi-threading, non-local jumps, stack unwinding are not supported as of now. Now, there exist initiatives to extend the WebAssembly standard to support all these three features. So regarding the performance, in most cases, we saw a close to native performance in our simulation modules. In some cases, we saw a significant performance overhead, especially when running on very small devices like this ESP32, because there the modules cannot be just in time compiled and they need to be interpreted, which makes the execution rather slow. And then in these cases, the execution speed can often be as slow as like 10 times slower than native. Also, invocation of our interface involves some overhead, since you need to read and write to this linear memory location. So if you need to invoke the interface at a very high frequency, that also carries some significant overhead. Some other general properties of this WebAssembly-based format is it's very deterministic. These digital twin assembly modules, they always produce exactly the same numerical results on any runtime or any platform, basically because WebAssembly doesn't know any undefined behavior. It is very self-contained, so these digital twin assembly modules are statically linked. All necessary resource files are embedded. The state of such a module instance is accessible from the outside, which means that features such as snapshotting a running module instance and resuming it later on can be done from the runtime. It doesn't need explicit support by the module implementation. Likewise, the modules are preemptible. They can be preempted by the runtime resumed later on. And these are all features that the virtual machine architecture of WebAssembly sort of buy us. In terms of performance, we saw the performance between a small factor between 1 and 2, and in some cases 10 times slower than native execution. The implementations we created for this on the runtime side, we wrote a digital twin assembly runtime based on wasmtime. Wasmtime is a just-in-time compiling WebAssembly runtime written in Rust that is available as open source. We call our implementation the Dtasm time, and that one is also available as open source under GitHub. I put the link here in case you'd like to have a look and try this out. We also created an implementation based on WASM3. WASM3 is a very lightweight interpreter for WebAssembly. and that can be embedded even on small microcontrollers like the Arduino or ESP32. And that was the one that was used in the example with the double pendulum running on the ESP32. We also created an implementation in JavaScript that is quite convenient to use and can be used for demos like running digital twin assembly modules inside web browsers. On the module side, we created some handwritten modules in C, C++, and Rust. These are also part of the Dtasm repository referenced on the left. And we were also successful in compiling a couple of source code FMUs, like those created by Simulink with the FMI kit, by Open Modelica or Daimler, into this digital twin assembly format and then executing them in our runtime. So wrapping this up, by compiling executable simulation modules into the WebAssembly format, we can gain a very good properties in terms of portability. They can be executed basically everywhere where a WebAssembly runtime is available. And the WebAssembly sandbox protects the host from any sort of bugs or malicious code that might be part of a module that you receive from a third party. And this can sometimes be a problem with FMU because for FMU, you load native machine code into your processes, and so you need to have some extra protection mechanisms in place to make sure that your process is not affected by any sort of bugs or errors in the FMU implementation. The performance we saw was often within a small factor of native performance in many cases, except for the ones that I mentioned, and the format is very lightweight and can be executed even on embedded devices. So thank you very much for listening. Thanks to the organizers for giving me the opportunity to talk on this topic. If you have any questions or comments, please get in touch with either me or my colleague. We are very interested in discussing this topic with you, and we also hope that you have a look at our GitHub repository and try out the WebAssembly code that we have there. That's all for now. Thank you. Bye-bye.